Welcome back, Generals and Admirals. The update is finally here. Broken Arrow update 1.0.10. Today we will be covering pretty much all of the major changes that this update brings, and let me tell you, I think it is a massive improvement for the game, and kudos to Broken Arrow and the developers for listening to the community and reaching out and kind of making some great changes. I still think there's going to be a lot of work to be done, but I think if anything with this new update, they're at least showing that they are listening to the community and they are making those changes. Obviously, the biggest change, and we'll go over more in depth later, is there is a vote to surrender option that you can use in game now, so you don't have to wait all 45 minutes or leave the game in order to, if you know there's really no hope, which usually by the end of phase 2 or middle of phase 2 you may be able to already make that determination. So we'll go over all that and more, so stay tuned as we dive on into this update. Again, General Johnny, if you guys are new to the channel, cover all Broken Arrow content, and we're going to start doing these changes, and really I've played one game since the update, and I've already noticed a few of the things. Didn't even read the full changelog, but it does feel a difference in terms of balance, which is the other big part of this update, is they addressed a lot of the balance issues that were going on between the Russian and the US. So if you don't know, the update's here. You can go ahead and select that. So as we pull up this update 1.0.10, we'll go ahead and watch this video. Kind of gives a general overview of the changes, but really doesn't cover everything. So we'll go ahead and watch that. Alright, so again, the update is called Everyone Fights, probably alluding to the whole surrender button option and all that. And again, this thing is massive, 26 pages, but we'll go ahead and hop into the main highlights. So yeah, starting off with the deserters, and this has been kind of a big deal since the beginning. People quitting, and it really it makes it kind of unfun for everybody involved, because especially if two people quit, one person quits, you know, it's kind of an issue. You have to pick up additional slack on the micro. You also aren't getting as many points until the full quit is what I'm tracking. So if anything, they should really change it to where if there's a disconnect, you receive those points immediately, and then, you know, when the person comes back, they obviously get refunded. I guess there might be a problem logistically or mechanically in how that would be implemented, but that's a change that I would like to see in the future as well. Let me know if you think the same. But penalty for deserters. So each repeated violation increases the penalty from 2 minutes for the first offense up to 3 hours for systematic deserters. So again, that's pretty good. The thing is, I think I heard a lot of people kind of complaining about, the penalty should be greater. I think this is okay though. I mean, because sometimes things do happen. Not excusing it by any means, but 2 minutes for the first offense isn't bad. So you do have the option to surrender, and it said alongside this, we are introducing the option to surrender during a match. So it really helps the team to avoid drawn out battles with no chance of victory, allowing them to move to the next game. A surrender vote can be initiated 5 minutes into the gameplay, so that option won't actually be available until 5 minutes. Voting lasts for 30 seconds, after which the results are calculated. So a clear majority, so I'm assuming 3 out of 5 vote that they do not want to continue. To prevent abuse, a new vote button can only appear 5 minutes after the previous one. So I think that's pretty acceptable as far as what it all consists of. I think generally if you get 3 of 5, then that game is probably not going well, and there's a reason why they would want to do that. But I do like the cooldown button, so it's doesn't get abused or anything like that. So continuing on, that's the main thing with the surrender button. And for you guys, I'll show you a clip on how to use the surrender button. So you basically go to the menu or the scoreboard tab, and then there's like a little surrender flag that pops up. And then you also kind of saw it on that video as well. As far as the anti-cheat, so this has been a massive problem since the beginning. I will say, personally, I've run into, knock on wood, less cheaters now than previously. So I do think that their anti-cheat system, while still needs massive improvement, I think this is the step in the right direction. We continue to improve our tools to detect cheaters and adapt to the new cheating tools, which are constantly being created and updating. Every update contains new anti-cheat measures, even if we don't talk about them in detail to avoid giving information and cheats user/creator. So part of the reason they're saying is, they're not talking about it as much is because they don't want people to work around the anti-cheats that they've already implemented. So going down, okay, again, this is kind of a roll-up of all the updates for the 0.10 update. New models, improved models for BMD family of vehicles, upgraded armor customizations, M4A1. Okay, balanced improvements. So the next big topic, talk after the anti-cheat, the surrender button, and all that. The penalty for leaving is going to be the balance. So new tools to analyze players' habits, factions, win rates, rebalance, US specializations are going to be improved, and new customization options. All right, so this is the changelog. Again, it talks about how you get the majority, which is, like we said, out of 5 players. So it's actually 4 votes. So 4 votes, it's more than a majority. 4 players, 3 votes. So it's like a 75% majority. Penalty for deserters, and then that is the progressive penalty that we were talking about earlier. Here is 2 minutes for the first leave, 5 minutes for the second leave, 15 for the third leave, 30 minutes for the fourth, 60 minutes, so an hour for the fifth leave, and then 100, so 3 hours happens at 6 leaves or above. So this is where I would say, this part, if you're leaving 4, 5, or 6, I mean, I guess it's progressive, but maybe make this like 5 minutes for the first leave, 10 minutes for the second leave, but I'm not going to nitpick it. Again, they are listening to, the comments that we're making and making changes they think appropriate. Okay, so this is actually some really good features. Was reading before, the laser designation order now keeps in memory. So, if you lose line of sight, you laser designate something, goes out of range, then it'll automatically lock back on when it comes back into range. I think that is actually really needed. The micro shouldn't be that intensive to laser designate. It's an awesome feature, really specific to this game, but I'm glad they're making it more accessible to the average player. Added dynamic battle music. So I did notice that right there is that the battle music does highlight the last minute of each phase, so that, and for people that have been playing this game for a while, you realize that the last few minutes of each phase is the most important. You might be building up to go take an objective, get the points. Maybe you have some kills that you need to make up. Those last few minutes, it's all calculated at the very end, and then after that, that phase does pretty much not matter after it's been tallied. So that's a pretty cool addition. Added a confirmation pop-up when deleting a battle group in the arsenal. Okay, cool. You can now drag and drop when unloading units. So I haven't actually had a chance to look at how this plays out, but the position where you press the button is where the troops will be unloaded, and the position where you release the click is where the unloaded troops will go after being unloaded. If this position is a building, they will automatically enter it. So I think that's actually really good. If it works the way I'm imagining in my head, it'll lessen your micro, and especially if you're unloading units and making sure they get there, and then you can go, micro a plane or something else that's going on, instead of focusing so much on getting them out the door or out the back of a truck. Okay. So general fixes. So they did say infamous crash to desktop upon leaving the game. So I haven't really ran into too many crashes myself. However, I have ran into crashes before, so maybe that was a bigger problem that I've seen. Okay, so players who intentionally disconnect by closing the game or unplugging their internet before match begins will be flagged as deserters if they fail to reconnect. If an entire team does this, all members will receive a deserter penalty. So I'm wondering if that includes the hit to the elo. So I know that before, if you like Alt F4 all together before the match, then you would not lose elo, or at least that's how it was a while ago. Don't know if that's still the case. Doesn't really sound like they changed anything like that, but again, they are trying to get around people intentionally disconnecting. So there's that. All right, and then a bunch of other fixes, as you can see here. Fixed an issue where some AAs with static radars were able to move with their radar turned on while returning to the base. So that's never again really ran into that, but some other exploits, and then also just some general things with textures, and some other good details there, and then you can read through them yourself. But on the balance, this is the other really big improvement. So in parallel with technical work, a programming team or design is working on gameplay improvement. So they're looking at these 3 levels of balance. So they're looking at the balance between the factions, the balance between the specialization within the faction, and the balance of units with specializations. So that's pretty good. I think that's where I would start if I was looking at developing this game. But I think the most interesting thing, so the previous patch 1.9 was aimed at 2nd and 3rd level, successfully managed to rebalance the level of interest of previously overplayed and underplayed battle groups. So they were looking at the battle groups, I think, a lot more in the last one. But the unintended, so the previous balance ratio between release and 1.09 was 5.12 in favor of the Russians, and since this patch, the disparity has been increased to almost 54%. So I know a lot of people have been talking about this, saying, oh yeah, it's not that big of it. 54%, especially when you count in all the different elos, which I'm pretty sure that's what it's talking about here. That is a pretty big percentage difference. So the actual effects of that is, depending on your elo bracket, could be greater than that, right? So this is a really interesting statistic that they have here in chart. So evolution of faction win rates from the 0.9 to 0.10. All right, so 49 up until the release of this one, down to 46.5% if you're US. But if you're Russian, they went from 51 to 53.5. So again, here's the mention of the ELO. However, it is also important to observe that above 2,000, the faction balance is much better and very close to 50-50 to the top 5%. And again, people have covered this at length and ad nauseum, but this new balance patch aims at reestablishing a better balance between the two factions for the majority of the players while trying to maintain a good balance at the higher level. So that's kind of what they're aiming at. And we'll go into kind of some of the eaches, but again, very long list of changes here. I think the biggest changes are obviously, and I know this is the first one everybody is thinking about, was the cruise missiles. So from the KH-32, so that's from the Tu-22 Mike 3, now lofts in high altitude. So I think that's what you saw in the video there. Just like in reality, air defense units use their high altitude optics and weapons range to intercept it. So I'm guessing that it is easier to intercept now because of the different trajectory. And then the KH-29 missiles aim time increased from 1 to 3 seconds to prevent instant blind fire against SAM sites engaging the plane carrying them. So before, you could just shoot a lot of cruise missiles at the AA, kind of countering that, getting away, and then also striking the other units. And it kind of overloaded the AA system, so saying that they added an aim time from 1 to 3 seconds to kind of counteract that. And their designer note, these two missiles were able to easily overwhelm any amount of air defense, like we were talking before, making their use at a low-cost, high-reward solution. So again, I think they definitely listened there with the cruise missile spam. I'm sure it'll still happen, and I just think that this is good to address it. And then it says the KAB 1500 aim time reduced 5 to 4 seconds. Okay. So as we go down here, a lot of short range AA missile adjustments. So it looks like across the board, the reload time is being reduced 20-30 seconds to 10 to 12 seconds. That's a huge difference in the double Igla. So I did see the Igla being used against me in the one match I did play, and it was pretty. I did see that it was more effective than usual. ZSU 23 Strelitz quadruple Igla reload time reduced from 20 to 30 seconds to 15 to 18 seconds. Okay. And so on and so forth. U.S. air defense vehicles with single pod of 4 Stinger reload time reduced from 20 to 30 seconds to 15 to 18 seconds. And air defense vehicles with double pod of 4 Stinger reload time reduced from 20 to 30 seconds to 20 to 25 seconds. So it looks like they didn't just adjust the Russian air defense SHORADs and Stinger options. They also did it to the US. So there you go as far as the balancing. Okay. So the designer note on this is this will slightly increase the performance of low-range SHORAD systems and help them compete with their top-tier units. Since US don't have long-range SHORAD available, this will slightly improve their maximum SHORAD efficiency. So yeah, I think that's pretty warranted there. Okay, and then the changes to the Abrams, specifically the M1A1HC, the M1A2, and the SEP 1, 2, 3, and the M8 Thunderbolt. So also the Thunderbolt here in the second update, but M8 30 heat shell penetration increased from 400 to 600, and this is exactly what I wanted to see personally, because you spend a lot on these tanks, and they don't always have the bang for the buck. So I think this is the right direction with this. And then the A1 heat variant shell damage increased from 9 to 10 with the SEP variant. So designer notes on this: the Abrams tank experienced significant difficulties in combat against light vehicles with ATGMs, which is very true. as it required 3 shells to destroy them, losing in open combat. This change means that any vehicle with 16 HP and 200 armor or less to be destroyed in 2 hits by those shells instead of 3. And I think that's fair, right? Because, you know, when a lot of times you'll go up against something like the Cornet or whatever. I don't know if this applies specifically to that platform, but you know, you shoot it 3 times with an Abrams and you know it's able to rip off just a ridiculous amount of ATGMs. Yeah, you do have smokes and everything, but if you put that up, then you know you can't shoot back. So it's really, you're just going to lose an open battle, just like they're saying, against something that is a fraction of the cost. So I think this is a huge step in the right direction. Okay. Going further down, refunding missile launchers. Okay, so this is the other big thing that you saw in the video. Actually, all of these are. The Patriot Pack 2 moved from the Armor USMC specialization to the, and then the Patriot Pack 3 moved from the Striker to the Armored specialization. So having both Patriot Pack 3 and Pack 3 MSE in the Striker specialization made them redundant. By splitting the long-range AA capabilities between the specializations, we make the faction easier to play without good team coordination. The least performance Pack 3 was given to the Armored spec in order to promote building other unit combinations. So again, they're just looking at the long-range AA capabilities with the packs and moving them around the specialization. So I think that is definitely a good change there. Okay, and then a few other things. So, you know, the Viper rockets loadout changed. A lot of different small eaches to some of these loadouts I won't go over. Okay, so the Guardian was moved to the Special Forces to the Airborne specialization. Just interesting. The DAP, so you saw that in the video, can now carry Hellfire missiles or the Dagger on the outer pylon. So that's pretty cool. So a lot of different specialization options. You can read each of them. But that's interesting that they decided to really increase the capability of the DAP. Not my favorite to begin with, but you know, I think that's good. They're doing that. The AH-64 in the specialization didn't leave anything outstanding. The Airborne special forces have many good alternates, and the DAP anti-tank capability was reinforced in compensation. Grouping the AH-64 in the same spec made the more redundant, so we had to added some unique customizations. So very interesting on why they decided to go that route. This is really interesting, was reading further down. Sturm S reload time increased 5 to 6 seconds. Cornet T and the Charisma reload time increased 5 to 8 seconds. So we were talking about how this is kind of OP. So they did do the reload times, which I think was appropriate. These missile launchers can reload with guided missiles since they are not wire guided. The ability combined with the fast reload speed meant that the next missile was something ready to fire before the impact previous. Increasing the reload time creates an opening that can be exploited and engaged with guns. So again, I think that's the right balancing option there. They removed the additional smoke from the BMP3 mics. They changed some of the pricing with the upper armored BT3F. Is there anything else crazy going on here? Okay, a lot of smoke changes. Okay, the BMP. So now we have the BMP2 without the Conquerors. I think there was another change as far as the ATGMs. So the BMP2 are regularly observed without ATGM in reality in-game comparison to the BMP1, and the BMP2 offers a better 2 Alpha 4.2 autocannon with a higher rate of fire and a lower troop carrying capacity. All right, another big one, and they fit a lot into that video, I didn't even realize before we started talking, was the Striker SPH cluster round customization added, and the SPH accuracy increased from 180/240 to 150/200, so more accurate, and also you get the cluster rounds on the Striker self-propelled howitzer. So I think that is appropriate too. I never really used the Striker because I didn't really Striker SPH because I didn't really think it was worth it. So maybe that changes significantly there. Okay, fixed vehicles missing laser range increase. Okay, so it looks like, did they fix vehicles missing the laser range increase announced in a match? So some vehicles' laser abilities were missed last time. The idea behind the longer designation range is that vehicles cannot seek as much as infantry, so they require to be lased from a safe distance of anti-tank missiles. Some logic for helicopters. Okay, so now you have the customization for smoke rounds on the Hawkeye MWS as well. All right, the next biggest point I was reading here was the TOS adjustment. So TOS 1 resupply time increased from 5 to 7 seconds per rocket. So, and then the TOS 1 resupply time increased from 6 to 10 seconds. So it doesn't matter what variant of the TOS you use, it's going to be a longer reload time. So we want the players to be more thoughtful about their use of the TOS. This is a powerful unit that can clean up an entire district of enemy infantry, but this should not happen every 3 minutes. I could not agree more. Good choice in making the reload time longer there. That was kind of an OP unit, ever since the last patch. Okay, so the F-15EX option to carry AGM harm missiles on the outer pylon added. So I think that's really important too. So, because the US players don't really have a whole lot of options for good seed, in my opinion. Yeah, you can use the, and I think it's addressed later on down in here with the F-35. But, this is good. They added the option for harm. So this change should not impact much of the combination of Airborne Striker USMC, which already possesses a good seed platform, the Prowler and the F-16 CJ. So those are pretty much your main seed planes. The Prowler is nice, but it's also a little bit clunkier. It doesn't have as much survivability. But this will help create more than the autonomous AB SOF and AB airborne armored battle groups. The weapon merging is done to better manage the overall price of the plane. Okay, interesting notes there. Again, a lot of other changes. Don't have time to go through quite in depth over here, but let's see. Air to ground anti-tank Maverick launch margin angle reduced. So they talked about this a lot in some of the other ones. I think this one as well. So basically, the angle that these things are firing. So the launch margin angle is the angle in which the missile can be launched compared to the axis of the plane. The seeker angle is used to reacquire a new target if the original target is lost. As a result, these missiles will be fired at targets located closer to the indicated strafe area. So what I'm getting from that is better for the strafing when you're using those missiles. So specifically the Maverick, which the Maverick was already pretty good, but I think they realized that you could sometimes when you're using the Maverick, it feels like you're suiciding that plane. So maybe this will help kind of balance that. To launch, okay, yeah, cool. And then the F-35, I think this is really these last 2 points are the biggest ones on balancing, at least that I saw. So the F-35 availability reduced from 4 to 2. Okay, no, probably a lot of Russian players complaining about F-35, but I don't agree with this change personally. But let's read the designer's note. The bombing order is used instead of the precision strike to bypass the aim time of the precision strike. So that change too. The availability has been reduced as a stopgap measure until we develop a way to prevent this technique. Okay. And then Comanche is more easily spotted when firing Hellfire missiles. So must have misread this the first time. I thought they just meant it was more easily spotted, but it sounds like when they're firing the Hellfire missiles, which is an important anecdote on that. So designers note that helicopter has exceptional infiltration capabilities, and using it means choosing when and where to deliver the first strike. You want to keep it that way, as this is what makes it unique. However, we also want to ensure that once the first strike has been delivered, the helicopter is spotted, so that decision to attack is made more carefully. Okay, that's fair enough. And And really, with that specifically, I can see that being annoying as a Russian player. You know, you're getting hit by the Comanche and then you can't see it, but all you have to do is turn on your radar onto one of your shore ads and you're good to go. So I don't know. I guess that's fair because they did do a lot of other changes that, you know, kind of stopped the, you know, Russian cruise missile spam and all the other stuff. The TAWS was another big one, and then they added a lot more capabilities and customization options for the US and the Russian. So I think overall this is a great, again, step in the right direction. Good on the development team for Broken Arrow, and hopefully, you know, this is going to drive a lot of people to revisit the game if they just played, decided, you know, they heard about all these different issues. And one last note, so we continue to closely monitor statistics, your feedback, and suggestions to ensure that every improvement brings the most value to the players. These changes have become possible thanks to your input and active involvement in the project's development. We sincerely thank the community for its support and contribution to the growth of the game. There are many more updates to come, and we will keep moving forward step by step, making the game better with each new milestone. So I think they are addressing, you know, not everything can be fixed at once. This is a this is an ongoing process and project. So definitely the right step in the right direction, again, in my opinion. And this thing is massive. And, you know, wasn't able to cover everything, but go check it out. As far as we're looking with just trying to see, I don't think the data is really, you know, out yet. This dropped literally this morning on the 23rd of September. You know, so we started out with 38,000 on release and about half every single month since then until it stabilized around 3K. I think the lowest it was getting was about, you know, 3K between August, September. You know, well, it gets down as close as 2, and it's kind of getting difficult to find a good game at those numbers. But with this update, I was on earlier and, you know, saw that it was just around 7,000, 8,000. I noticed it getting up there. So I don't know how accurate this is or how up to date, but hopefully, you know, I would be happy if this game hovered around 10K. I think that's a really good number, which is 3 times more than what I've really been seeing, around 3,600 players per night. But hopefully if they continue these updates, people will continue to give this game a chance. But I will say on this point is that Broken Arrow is a very complicated game. You guys know this. It can be frustrating at times. 45-minute matches with a very high and steep learning curve that requires 5 individual people to come together and play this game. It's just very hard, especially in the nature of gaming today, but in an RTS world as well that's a little less popular than it used to be. You know, I think this is a good step in the direction that we need to be going for this game, and I really do have high hopes, and I'll cover the next update whenever that is. I haven't seen anything about when that next update is, but until then, see you next time. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. General Johnny signing out.